This one was in the comments quite a bit in some of my recent videos. We've got the Garmin Fenix 7X and the COROS Vertix 2. Which one's right for you? Which one's better? Let's get into it. These two devices represent the top dog, most expensive options with the most features from both of these brands. Not only that, but they do have a lot in common with incredible durability, battery life, premium build materials, multi-frequency GPS modes, onboard mapping and music, touchscreens, and more. So why would you pick the COROS Vertix 2 over the Fenix 7X or the Fenix 7 over the COROS? It's a tough one, and we're gonna find out today. Before we move on, I do wanna give a quick shout out to my sponsor today, and that's playbetter.com. Without them, this video would not be possible, so I want to thank them for that. And if you're interested in a Fenix 7X or the COROS Vertix 2, check out the links down below because they offer free 2-day shipping and an awesome return policy, so check them out. All right, these two watches have an incredible amount of features, and it would be nearly impossible for me to cover every little aspect of them in this one video. So we're going to do our best here, and I'm going to go through 13 different categories from pricing, sensor accuracy, navigation tools, and much more, and ultimately decide who's the winner. And at the end of this video, we'll kind of have a roundup with the results and try to see who comes out on top. Keep in mind, this video is not a full in-depth review on either one of these watches. We're really going to be skimming super quick through all of the features. So if you want to see an in-depth review on either one of these watches, check out the links that I'll provide up here, where I do a deep dive on each watch in separate videos. And I want you to keep in mind that my opinion and my use case is probably different than yours, so you should try to form your own opinion. I'm only making this video to share my opinion. So with that, let's move on. First things first, let's talk options and sizing. On the Garmin Fenix 7, it's super complicated because there are a ton of options to choose from the smaller Fenix 7S all the way up to the largest Fenix 7X that I have here. And these watches come in a bunch of different colors, and they also come in different build materials with sapphire lenses or Gorilla Glass lenses, and they all range from around $699 all the way up to $1,000. I'm not going to compare every version of the Fenix 7 to the COROS Vertix 2 because this video would be 1 hour long. Instead, I'm going to try to pick the most comparable featured option, and I think that's going to be the 7X Solar Sapphire that I have here. And the Fenix 7X Solar Sapphire that I have here is the black DLC version, if you're wondering what color I have. When it comes to the COROS Vertix 2, it's much simpler. There's only one size, and there's only two colors, and both options are built with the same premium materials. There's this lava color that I have here, and then there's also a black color that they call Obsidian. Now, when it comes to pricing, the Garmin Fenix 7X Solar Sapphire that I have here is $999, and the COROS Vertix 2 that I have here comes in at $699, which is still a lot of money, but it is a lot less than the 7X Sapphire. And that kind of rounds out the first category we're going to talk about today, and that's pricing, and the COROS Vertix 2 definitely wins when it comes to pricing. Okay, next category we've got is style and design. This is really subjective, but I'm going to share my opinion anyways because it's my video. Both of these watches are very large, so just keep that in mind if you're shopping for a watch. Like, these are really big. The Fenix 7X comes in at 51 millimeters in diameter, and the Vertix 2 comes in at 50.3 or 50.5 millimeters. Honestly, by the eye, they look very similar. However, when you put them side by side, you can see that the Fenix 7X is actually a little bit thinner than the Vertix 2. And when you have these two watches on your wrist, you definitely notice them there. I will say that the Fenix 7X does feel a little less in the way. I don't know why. I think the Vertix 2 is just a little bit taller when it stands off my wrist, so I find myself like whacking it off of door frames and stuff a little bit more often. But both are pretty chunky watches, and you just have to be prepared for that if you're in the market for one of these things. And when it comes to the actual style of these watches, the Fenix 7X has more of a minimalistic design. They really didn't take any aggressive cues. It's definitely like a rugged outdoor watch, and it's definitely noticeable when it's on your wrist, but there's no flashy things going on here, especially on this black version. When it comes to the COROS Vertix 2, it's a little bit more flashy. So there's the COROS logo kind of etched into the bezel there. There's some tick marks around the exterior, and there's just more contouring and features around the bezel of the watch. All in all, I'm not going to give a ding to either one because they're both nice looking watches in their own regards, and it's really a subjective opinion which one you prefer. And for that, I'm going to give the style and looks department a draw. Next up, let's talk build quality and durability, because that's a real hot topic between these two. Both of these watches are built like absolute tanks. They've got titanium bezels, DLC coatings, and sapphire glass over their displays. I'm pretty sure you could stop a bullet with either one of these and you could still continue your run after you stop that bullet. In practice, I've had the COROS Vertix 2 for a while now, and I've really abused this thing. I've actually brought it through 2 ultramarathons in the woods, through the rocks, in the rain, grinding it down hills and stuff like that, and it still looks brand new. It's still flawless. There's really not a mark anywhere on the body of the watch, so it's really held up well over time. In terms of the Garmin Fenix 7X, I haven't had it as long, so I can't speak to its long-term durability. I can say it does feel quite solid in the hand, and I am absolutely not worried about it scratching. Considering the sapphire glass is so durable, I've used sapphire on Garmin's all the way back to the Fenix 3, and I've never had an issue with it. And both of these watches are water resistant to 10 atmospheres or 100 meters, so you're good for open water swimming and things like that. They're covered there. Honestly, again, just like the looks department, I can't really pick a winner here because these both feel so well built. So I'm gonna give build quality and durability a draw. I don't know, maybe a slight edge to the COROS Vertix 2 for whatever reason, because in my hand it just feels a little bit more dense. Okay, let's talk about the displays on these watches because they are very similar, but there are some differences. So both of these watches do feature an always-on 1.4-inch transflective memory in pixel display designed to be power efficient and utilitarian. These types of displays are not vibrant, they're not like Apple watches, so don't expect that if you're buying one of these. And both of these models also offer sapphire lenses, which comes standard on the COROS Vertix 2, but you do have to upgrade on the Fenix 7X. Now, if we get into the weeds on visibility, there is a little bit of a difference here. So if you look at the displays just straight on from a glance, you can see that both do have a little bit of cloudiness to it, and that's just a product of having a sapphire lens. And out in direct sunlight, both of these are very readable. I really have no issues there. I think the only issue I have is the backlight on the COROS Vertix 2 is a little bit dim. So if we compare the backlights between these two watches, I'll cut in some B-roll of me doing this in the dark. The Garmin Fenix 7X just has much more contrast, where the blacks are a little bit inkier and darker, and the whites are a little bit crisper and more vibrant. And on the COROS Vertix 2, everything's just a little bit washed out, a little bit muddier. It's definitely visible. There's no issues with it. And in the dark, you can see it just fine. But I do find it a little bit easier to see the Fenix 7X display and read it when it's dark out. Another big difference between the displays here is that the Fenix 7X actually has a adjustment. So you can customize the brightness of the backlight in the dark. And that can be customized for general use when you're using a smartwatch, and when you're in an activity, there's 2 different settings for that. Whereas the COROS Vertix 2 is just set at the same brightness. There is no tweaking to that. So in terms of display quality, I'm going to give the win to the Garmin Fenix 7X just because the backlight is a little bit more contrasty and because it's adjustable. I like that. Okay, moving on, we've got user interface, buttons, touchscreen, all that stuff, what you interact with on a daily basis. So when it comes to the Garmin Fenix 7X, you've got the standard 5-button layout that they've been doing forever on their watches. Now, the big difference here is that this year with the Fenix 7X, there is a touchscreen on board the watch, and it's very responsive. You can see here just me swiping around the user interface. Things are very responsive, react, there's no lag or anything like that. It's a really enjoyable touchscreen experience. On the COROS Vertix 2, it's a different layout. We've got a 3-button layout with a scroll wheel in the middle here. I do like the digital crown scroll wheel thing, and it's a great experience, especially if you're wearing gloves or anything like that, because you can still access this big wheel on the side of the watch. It's pretty easy to use. Now, interestingly enough, the Vertix 2 does feature a touchscreen, but the touchscreen is not all that utilized. It's really only utilized in certain parts of the watch. So you can see just from my general home screen here, if I try to swipe up and down, I can't do that. But if I dive into a widget, I can swipe up and down, and that's a setting within the watch. But the same goes when you're in activities. It's not always responsive. It's not something that's always working. You really only get to use it in certain aspects of the watch. One really nice use for the touchscreen on the COROS Vertix 2 is when you're in the mapping and navigation mode, but that also goes for the Fenix 7X, and we'll talk about that when we get to another category in this video. So in terms of the winner when it comes to the user interface and what it's like to actually interact with these watches on a daily basis, I'm gonna give the win to the Fenix 7X because the touchscreen is just so much better. You can use it in every aspect of the watch. You can go through the settings with it. This might be my personal preference, but I do like having the options whether or not I want to use the buttons or the touchscreen. Next up, we're going to talk about the sensors on board the watches. Both of these watches do have an optical heart rate sensor. You can see that on the back of the watch, and they both do have a blood oxygen saturation sensor within that. On the Garmin Fenix 7X, it does have Garmin's latest Generation 4 heart rate sensor, and this sensor has proven to be a lot more accurate than previous Garmin watches, and in my testing so far, it has been one of the better performers. cameras, albeit not the most perfect one out of this new lineup because it is the biggest and heaviest, so it does move around the most on my wrist. When it comes to the COROS Vertix 2, it gets generally pretty decent accuracy, but I have found that it does drop. It does have spikes here and there. One trend I've noticed with the heart rate sensor on the COROS Vertix 2 is that at the beginning of one of my runs, for instance, I'll notice that my heart rate seems really low, and it's like that for like 5 or 10 minutes until the heart rate sensor gets warmed up or whatever, and then it locks on pretty good for the rest of the run. And after testing these two sensors compared to a chest-based ECG sensor like my Polar H9, I probably would give the win to the Fenix 7X in terms of heart rate accuracy. Just seems to be a little bit better and more reliable, but the COROS Vertix 2 isn't far behind. Now, in terms of the other sensors on board the watches, they both do have barometric altimeters, accelerometers, compasses, gyroscopes, and a thermometer built in to pick up your ambient temperature. However, on the COROS Vertix 2, there is one sensor that the Fenix 7X does not have, and that's an ECG sensor or electrocardiogram. And to access that, you can see I could dive into my settings here, go over to HRV test. As of now, the ECG sensor is only used to pick up your HRV index, which is stored in the COROS app, but I feel like in the future they might utilize the sensor to do other stuff. So who wins the sensor category? That's kind of a tough call because the COROS Vertix 2 has more sensors because it has that ECG sensor, but the Garmin Fenix 7X has a more accurate heart rate sensor. And in my opinion, I value a heart rate sensor more so than an ECG sensor, so I'm going to give the win for my personal use case to the Fenix 7X. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about smartwatch features on board both of these watches, because both of these watches do support all of the basic smartwatch functions. You can receive your phone notifications, you have the ability to accept or decline a phone call, and that is the same between both watches. In terms of other smartwatch features on these watches, the COROS Vertix 2 does have a sunrise and sunset widget, which is really nice to have. And one really unique feature to the COROS Vertix 2 is that you actually have the ability to pair a GoPro or an Insta360 action camera right to the watch and control it from the watch. I could see a use case for this being a kayaker or a climber or someone like that who maybe has the camera on the helmet and they want to be able to turn the camera on and off. Pretty sweet feature to have. However, when it comes to smartwatch features on the Fenix 7X, we've got a lot more functionality here. So you can see here, I have a full weather widget with the current temperature for today, the high and low, the precipitation for the day. Swiping down, I get even more information with an hourly forecast for today. Scrolling down again, we have a sunrise and sunset widget, which is very similar to the widget that's available on the COROS Vertix 2. So they're kind of the same there. However, if I scroll down, you can see I do have calendar integration telling me that my wife is getting her nails done tomorrow, so that's good to know. And then swiping down again, you can see my notifications from my phone, and I like how there's icons for the individual applications from the phone. Another differentiator when it comes to these two watches and smartwatch features is that they actually both support offline music playback. However, there is a big difference when it comes to music playback between these two watches because the COROS Vertix 2 only supports MP3 files and you have to manually upload them to the watch. Now on the Garmin Fenix 7X, it's compatible with Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and there's a few other services out there that sync over to the watch over Wi-Fi, which is really handy. Another big win to the Garmin Fenix 7X when it comes to all kinds of features, not just smartwatch features, is that it's actually compatible with Garmin's Connect IQ store. And Garmin Connect IQ is basically like an app store for Garmin. You can purchase new apps, you can download widgets or data fields that you want to add into your activities. There's a lot of functionality there. Oh yeah, one more thing in the smartwatch category. I don't know where else I would fit this because it's so weird. The Garmin Fenix 7X actually has a flashlight on board by double tapping this button here. You can see there's an LED flashlight on the front of the watch. And when I first got this thing, I thought it was kind of silly that they put a flashlight on it. But I tell you, after a week of wearing this, I was using it all the time. Okay, all of that said, I talked a lot there. Who wins the smartwatch category? I'm just gonna boil it down to the winner being the Garmin Fenix 7X. Next up, let's talk wellness tracking between the Garmin Fenix 7X and the COROS Vertix 2. I'm talking everyday life. Both devices do track the basics like step count, stairs climb, active calories, active time, and both these devices do track your sleep and recovery cycles, but there's a bit of a difference here. On the COROS Vertix 2, you get sleep tracking that tracks your sleep stages like REM sleep, deep sleep, light sleep, etc. And that's all synced over to the COROS app where you can view it after the fact. Now the Garmin Fenix 7X also does this, but it's a little bit more intelligent in how it stores this information. The sleep tracking system is tied into other aspects of the watch, like something called body battery, where if you're 100% charged, you're ready to train and you're wide awake, and if you're 5% charge, you are worn down to a nub, it should be taking a nap. So the sleep tracking system ties into body battery. Body battery reflects how much energy you have left in your day, and you can use all of this information to better design your training plan or know what you should be doing that day. All in all, both of these systems do track your everyday wellness, but I think that the Garmin Fenix 7X does provide you with more information on what to do with all of that data. For that, I'm gonna give the wellness tracking winner to the Garmin Fenix 7X. And going along with that, the next category is gonna be training tools. What do these two devices offer when you're training for a marathon? On the Garmin Fenix 7X, you've got training load, training status, load focus, recovery advisor, and estimated VO2 max, along with a graphical race predictor, which is really cool. It lets you see your progress over time. Garmin has really dialed in this training platform and it's really good. However, just recently, COROS introduced something called COROS Evo Labs, which is their own training platform. And on COROS Evo Labs, you've got a very similar set of features like training load, training status, recovery advisor, VO2 max estimation, your marathon level, race predictor, and more. And generally, for the purpose of this video, there are so many features when it comes to training tools. I'm gonna summarize it and say that it's kind of a draw. I think depending on what you're looking for, the Garmin ecosystem might be better for training. In other aspects, the COROS Evo Labs training platform is really awesome as well. Next category is going to be GPS modes and accuracy. Now, this is a really interesting one. So the COROS Vertix 2 was the first mainstream sports watch to have dual frequency GPS mode. If you don't know, dual frequency GPS mode means it's utilizing two different frequencies to acquire more satellites to get a better GPS fix. I'm probably dumbing that down a bit. It just means it gives you better accuracy, and in my testing, it definitely does. Now, COROS was doing this first with the Vertix 2, but the Garmin Fenix 7X now has this feature as well. So to test this, I've taken these two watches out on several runs in various different GPS modes. So in multi-frequency mode, I've noticed that the COROS Vertix 2 and the Fenix 7X are nearly identical. However, because that highest accuracy mode takes a toll on the battery life, which we'll talk about in a little bit, if you want to dial that back and go into like a standard GPS mode, I've noticed for whatever reason, the Garmin Fenix 7X is just a little bit more accurate than the COROS Vertix 2. That said, both of these watches are extremely good when it comes to GPS performance and accuracy, so it's really hard to pick a winner because I'm splitting hairs here. These are definitely two of the best on the market right now. But if I had to pick, because I don't utilize that multi-frequency mode all the time for the sake of battery life, I probably would go with the Fenix 7X as the winner here. Okay, now that we've talked about GPS accuracy, we have to talk about battery life because they kind of go hand in hand, and it's going to get pretty confusing here. One major difference when it comes to battery life here is that the Garmin Fenix 7X has a solar panel on the front of the watch, on this one in particular. On the Garmin Fenix 7X, you'll get about 28 days in smartwatch mode, just using it day after day to read your text messages and things like that, and no GPS activity. Now, if we talk about GPS modes, in basic GPS mode, you'll get up to 89 hours, and if you get 3 hours of sunlight during that GPS activity, you'll get up to 122 hours, which is a long time to be in a GPS mode. However, if you crank up that accuracy and go into that multi-frequency mode, you'll get up to 36 hours without sunlight or 41 hours with 3 hours of sunlight on the watch face. Lots of numbers there. I'm sorry, we got to get through this, so stick with me. On the COROS Vertix 2, get this, in daily smartwatch mode, you get up to 60 days, so about 2 months of use on the COROS Vertix 2. And I gotta say, while using this watch over the past 6 months or so, that's entirely accurate. The last time I charged this one in particular was 52 days ago, and I still have 20% battery left. And the GPS modes are equally as crazy when it comes to battery life. In GPS only mode, we're looking at 140 hours, and in multi-band, multi-frequency mode, that highest accuracy, you get 50 hours out of the COROS Vertix 2, which is just bonkers. So even though the Garmin Fenix 7X has a solar panel on the front of the watch, the COROS Vertix 2 absolutely takes the win in terms of battery life. Now let's talk activity tracking, profiles, and customization between these two watches. Both of these do have a ton of activity profiles, from everything like the basics like running and cycling, all the way up to things like yoga and high intensity training. Now the Garmin Fenix 7X definitely has a longer list of activities, and because it's compatible with Connect IQ, it means you can download more activities from the Connect IQ App Store. In terms of activity customization on the profiles of these watches, it's very similar. Both do offer up to to 8 data fields per page when you're in activity, and each of those data fields can be swapped out and customized with more information. One interesting metric that the COROS Vertix 2 picks up that the Garmin Fenix 7X does not is going to be running power. However, because the Fenix 7X just has way more activity profiles and Connect IQ integration, I'm going to give it the win in terms of activity profiles and customization. Next up, let's talk sensors support, because this is going to be a touchy subject for a lot of triathletes out there. The Garmin Fenix 7X is compatible with Ant+ and Bluetooth sensors. That can be a cadence sensor, power sensor, running dynamics pod, all kinds of things, whereas the COROS Vertix 2 is only compatible with Bluetooth sensors. No Ant+ support on the COROS Vertix 2, so that's kind of a bummer, and for that, the sensor support goes to the Fenix 7X as the winner. Next category is going to be the navigation and mapping features between these two watches, because this one's pretty tough. The COROS Vertix 2 was the first COROS watch to get full-blown mapping on the watch itself. Now keep in mind, this is limited mapping. So there's a base map that gives you a contextual idea of where you are. So if you're out on a run or a hike or something like that, you can glance at your watch and see trails and roads and waterways and all kinds of information. The Garmin Fenix 7X also has the mapping capability. However, it does have quite an advantage when it comes to navigation and mapping. On the Garmin Fenix 7X map, you do get a lot more detail, trail labels giving you information about the name of the trail or the name of the road that you're on, or even the name of a waterway or river that you're nearby. It also shows points of interest like peaks of mountains. You can even look for a local restaurant or an airport, and you can get turn-by-turn directions right on your wrist. And none of those capabilities in terms of navigation and mapping with points of interest and things like that are available on the COROS Vertix 2. Think of the map on the COROS Vertix 2 as sort of an image that's in the background on a breadcrumb map. Because the mapping and navigation experience on the Fenix 7X is just so much more advanced, I do have to give it the win when it comes to mapping and navigation. Okay, now that we've kind of hit the end of this video, we should be wrapping up the results and picking a winner. And if you've been keeping track like me, you may have noticed that just about every category except for battery life was won by the Garmin Fenix 7X. And yeah, it's a good watch, but hear me out here. I don't know if it's the watch for you. Picking between a COROS Vertix 2 and a Fenix 7X is a very personal choice, because some of these things may not matter to you and some may matter more than others. So I'm gonna wrap this up by giving you my subjective opinion on who these watches are for, and maybe you can decide which one's right for you. First, let's talk about the COROS Vertix 2. If you've got a budget of around $700 and you want a super reliable, very simple experience with not a lot of fluff on top, you don't want a bunch of smartwatch features, you don't want a lot of things getting in the way, and you want the app experience and the watch experience to be very simple and easy to understand and use. The COROS Vertix 2 is more of a utility, it's more of a tool. I've used it personally at a 100-mile ultramarathon and found it to be extremely useful, and I think it's a really awesome watch and one of the best on the market in terms of trail running, hiking, outdoorsy type watches. Now let's talk about the Fenix 7X. If you need full-blown mapping with trail names, road names, and point-to-point routable maps where you can get turn-by-turn directions, the real only choice here is going to be the Fenix 7X. On top of that, if you're into gadgets and you want a more smartwatch capable watch with calendar integration and Connect IQ support for downloading more apps and more widgets and things like that, again, the Fenix 7X is going to be right for you. And the final note here is that you have a budget of $1,000 if you want a well-built sapphire and titanium model of the Fenix 7X. That's another thing to consider, because the COROS Vertix 2 is $700 and it's built with the highest end material. At the end of the day, both of these watches are incredibly powerful, great outdoors tools, and I think you wouldn't be disappointed either way unless there's one standout feature on either one that really draws you in. For me though, gun to my head, I have to pick one. I'd go with the Garmin Fenix 7X, and that's just because it has a more powerful mapping experience and the music support's just a little bit easier to use, but that's just for my use case. Anyways, that's all I've got for this one. I hope this video was valuable to you and it helped you make a decision, and if not, sorry. And I'm interested to hear from you. Which one are you interested in, the Fenix 7X or the COROS Vertix 2? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And finally, if you're interested in picking up a Vertix 2 or the Fenix 7X, check out the links down below because they do help support my channel and they cost nothing extra to you. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. I've talked so much I'm losing my voice. I gotta go now. Bye.